As we've been reporting today, President Trump called Stormy Daniels horseface yesterday. Prompted this post by President Obama's former chief official White House photographer Pete Souza, who highlighted this photograph with the caption, "It's only okay to call a horse face." It's the latest example of how Souza is using the moments captured during his time in the Obama White House to take jabs at the Trump administration, a tactic known to his millions of Instagram followers as throwing shade. But Souza's trolling of President Trump is no longer limited to social media. His new book is titled Shade, A Tale of Two Presidents. And Pete Souza joins us now. Pete, good morning. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me.
How and when did this begin for you? You didn't set out to throw shade. I understand you didn't even know what that meant a couple of years ago.
No, I mean, it actually started a couple of days after the inauguration when I posted a picture of President Obama in the Oval Office with the red curtains in the background, and I just said, kind of like the old curtains better. It had a double meaning, and I think people caught on to it.
So we usually don't see this from a White House photographer who has that fly-on-the-wall quality to him or to her. What made you want to step out and make this stand?
Well, I think this guy disrespects the office of the presidency. I mean, it's as simple as that. If John McCain or Mitt Romney or Marco Rubio had been elected president, I wouldn't be doing this because I think they would have respected the office. I don't think he does.
All right, let's take a couple of look at some of these. This is your response to President Trump's claim that President Obama had his phones tapped during the election. You have the president saying, say what?
Say what? And I was trying to imagine how President Obama was reacting to reading this where Trump accused him of a high crime, essentially. And I know President Obama really well. I don't know how he would have reacted, so that's why I had the different expressions.
Do you hear from President Obama about your photographs?
He tells me that friends, when he's on the road, tell him about it.
What does he think?
I think he thinks they're probably pretty funny.
So here's your response to President Trump's criticism of President Obama not doing enough to confront Russian President Vladimir Putin about election meddling, with the caption, "Not much laughter happening here." That was in Beijing in 2014.
I mean, it kind of says it all, right? I mean, President Obama was not afraid of being tough on world leaders when necessary.
Two things. One is the power of photographs to sort of be a narrative corrector, because we live in a time where I think it's fair to say the occupant of the White House likes to peddle in falsities, untruths. Yeah. And photographs are a great way to sort of counterbalance that. Do you find that that's sort of your calling here, to use your photographs as a way to promote truth? That's my first question.
Sometimes, definitely. I mean, the crowd on Inauguration Day.
Yeah.
I mean, the picture from 2009, which was the biggest crowd ever at an inauguration, to counter Trump's claims that he had the biggest.
Now,
so definitely.
Yeah. Now, my second question is just about you yourself. You've taken, God knows how many pictures you took during the course of the Obama presidency. Do you have an encyclopedic knowledge of what those photos are and where to pull them out from? I mean, when you see a tweet and you're in your head, is it working, that day, at that point, I remember this picture from the Obama administration, I'm going to go find it?
Yes.
You have that type of knowledge?
Yeah, it's usually in my head.
Really?
And oftentimes I just Google it, because the pictures I'm using are ones that we had made public while we were in office.
Sure.
So they're public domain, and I can usually Google them and find them somewhere.
But you can recall specific moments in pictures that you took?
Yes.
Have you ever used private pictures that weren't public domain?
No.
Why not?
Because I just don't think it's the right thing to do.
You save it for the next book.
Yeah, maybe.
What's interesting to someone looking at the pictures, or at least it's interesting to me, is in the crowd shots. Most of the crowd shots that you use in this book and in others, people look really happy to see the President of the United States. And if you juxtapose it to the crowd shots today with Mr. Trump, they seem, on the edge of being gleeful, but about, something bad is going to happen. I mean, he's going to, make fun of people. It's like a comedy show. But your crowd shots are different.
Well, I don't think President Obama from the podium would, bully people. He didn't call the press that were there the enemy of the people. So he was talking to them and not talking about other people in a negative way.
In fairness, there are a lot of people very excited to see President Trump if you've ever been to one of those rallies.
Oh, I didn't mean they weren't excited to
Right,
see
he's
it.
saying in a different kind of way.
But the tempo of the crowd is different.
Right, but they're happy to see Trump as well. This is, Pete, your response to the appointment of Robert Mueller as special counsel in charge of the Russia investigation. What are you saying here with this picture?
I don't remember what my caption is. It's too small to read. But I did want to point out that Robert Mueller is one of the greatest public servants of our generation. I mean, he served in the FBI, was asked to stay on past his term by President Obama. I mean, this guy is, without question, just a great government service person.
And has served Republican and Democratic presidents, obviously. Now, this one, Mika, I want to bring you in on. This is Pete's response to President Trump's disparaging comments about women, particularly his attack on you, Mika. What are you saying here, Pete?
Well, I was trying to have Mika's back on this one and show that President Obama had a lot of women in senior positions around him.
Mika?
And in fact, he started the White House Council on Women and Girls. He passed the Lilly Ledbetter Act. I mean, this President Obama really considered elevating the level of women and helping them use their voices and find leadership positions was better for America. And all of that has literally been wiped away. The council is gone. And what we have now, I guess, in terms of examples of female leadership would be Kellyanne Conway, Ivanka, and Melania, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It's hard when they don't defend women when they're being defamed. It's hard to understand what has happened.
Let's take a look at another one. This is your response, Pete, to reports of President Trump calling the White House a dump. You said in the caption, despite what some say, the White House definitely is not a dump. What a shameful thing to say or even to think.
I mean, I think that says it all. I think there are so many people that, permanent workers of the White House, that do so much every day to keep that house looking great and functioning.
And this is your response, Pete, to President Trump's nickname for North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Right. There's only one rocket man, Sir Elton John.
I kind of cracked myself up at that one.
But I just want to. So you knew, you had an institutional memory that you had taken a photo.
Oh, yeah. As soon as he called him Little Rocket Man, I said, I got to.
I remember that photo that day.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
And how long do you take on the caption? Because it's not just the photo.
The captions are the tough work, I feel like.
Some captions take longer than others. Some of them, though, come up.
Yeah.
They're just,
that one.
That one was easy.
Yeah. Did you ever photograph Trump prior to his presidency?
Well, I mean, 2 days after the election, that was it. When he came to the White House, and then on Inauguration Day.
How'd you get the job?
I was the Washington-based photographer for the Chicago Tribune when Barack Obama was elected to the Senate in 2004. Got to know him because of that professional relationship that we had.
And what's it like to be, as I said, a fly on the wall almost everywhere the President of the United States goes, and to really get to know him intimately in a way that none of us ever will?
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the White House photographers, you see the president in all aspects of their life, you know, in the Situation Room, but then with playing with his daughters in the snow and things
I remember
like that.
being on the White House beat, and Pete would always be just sort of off to the sides, like, who is this guy? He's got all the scoops. I didn't realize you were the photographer.
What were you like, and what was it like that horrible day up in Sandy Hook, Connecticut?
Oh,
Yeah, well, I mean, the day of the shooting was hard because President Obama took that so personally that, and you know, just imagining what it must have been like for those 20 parents of 6-year-olds that died, and then to go to Sandy Hook and spend 3 hours with the families privately, consoling them in a way that was the worst situation ever to happen in their life, and it was 2 days later. And so they were still trying to come to grips with what was happening, and they were having to talk to the President of the United States. I mean, we don't see that kind of interaction from the President today, which I think is unfortunate.
Pete Souza saw it all over 8 years, the good and the truly awful. The book is Shade, A Tale of Two Presidents. It's out now. Pete, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Thanks.
Mika?
And still ahead, Jamal Khashoggi has not been seen since October 2nd, and President Trump is pushing back against the growing criticism of Saudi Arabia by invoking Brett Kavanaugh, calling this another case of guilty until proven innocent. Plus, Democrat Beto O'Rourke finds something in common with President Trump. We'll tell you what that is. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.